go. I shall go to see what the other these.
28 Minutes or Less podcast with S. Foster.
Battle to win.
28 minutes. 28 minutes. S. Foster. S. Foster. S. Foster.
What's good, people? It's your boy S. Foster back for another episode of 28 Minutes or Less. And this is episode 74 of the podcast. And today I have a very special guest, first time on the 28 Minutes or Less, man. I got my guy, CJ Tapp Takes, as some know him by. Man, I appreciate you joining the pod, man. How you feeling?
Oh, man, I'm feeling good. When you reached out, you've been on, I don't want to say you've been on with us because you and JD have went back way farther than I was ever a part of the JD project. But, I've had the pleasure to being on a podcast with you before, and I've always enjoyed every conversation we had. So when you reached out, I was like, oh, of course, man, I definitely want to be on here and chop it up with you. So, I'm happy to be here.
Man, I appreciate that. Yeah, have worked with you a few times, man. We had some great conversations, and I also came with some mean takes, man. That you you was like, yo, what is this dude smoking on some of my takes? But I just have a different outlook, man. For me, I am a film guy. Like, if you stand out on film to me, then I put you higher than if you just won a championship. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that's why I kind of, you know what? I think it's a personal thing. Okay, small story. So JD, this is one thing I appreciate about him is like the way he talked about my accolades back when I played. Like JD is kind of like my dad would give a take, right? My dad would be like, yo, my son could have covered Randy Moss. You know what I'm saying? Like my dad would go to the extreme. You know what I'm saying? He would go to the LeVar Ball, right? And like JD is like that. It was like I was good. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't great, but I was good. And like he'll talk. I hear him like talking about me or whatever. And like basically where I'm going with this was I was more of a film guy. Like you had to watch my film because like my numbers didn't stand out to you. Like I only had of 3 years of being a starter, I had 15 career interceptions. Now more than half of them was in the playoffs, but you know what I mean. So you had to watch the film to see how good I was. Because like I can't tell you, like I don't have like all the highlights, but I never gave up a touchdown when it was my responsibility. So you would have to watch the film to see that. So I think that's why I really kind of go off and like, yo, if you stand out on film, I'll ride with you. But just because you won a championship, I'm not gonna say you're the greatest because you won a championship. So
no, it's one of like I can't know. I'm trying to think who I'm stealing this from. It's either Colin Cowherd, Keyshawn J. Will, and Zubin. They call it. It might be Greenberg, but they call it Manalytics. Everybody wants to look at analytics now and look at just numbers, and it's like, no, wait a minute, where's the Manalytics? Like, I need to see what this guy looks like. I don't care what it is, all these numbers, height, weight, 40, player efficiency rating. Like, I don't care about that. I don't care about analytics. I want the Manalytics. I need to know what kind of man this is. I need to see it. And it's what else you said was LeVar Ball, man. Like, isn't that kind of that dude has done wonders as a father. Like everybody hated on LeVar, and he got all 3 sons paid. Like one of them got arrested in China. He's on a G League team collecting a check right now. And Lonzo, I mean, if we really was to break down Lonzo, was he really like should have been drafted second that year? Well, I mean, Markelle Fultz shouldn't have been drafted 1, but I mean, Lonzo wasn't good enough to be drafted second. I mean, Jason Tatum was in that draft class. Like, that's all LeVar. That's all LeVar.
Yeah. I never thought of it that way till I was talking to my guy Scoots Brunson that I do the Views Anonymous with, and he was like, "Yo, your dad was LeVar Ball before LeVar Ball. Like he should have got on TV." He was like, man, you would have definitely got into school. You know what I'm saying? With your dad hyping you up like that. And I was like, yeah, but it's a wild thing, man. It's a wild thing. But so, man, like I said in the beginning, I appreciate you being on with me, man. And so, one thing I wanted to speak to you about was I hear a lot of your takes when it comes to football, when it comes to basketball, and I'm like, man, this dude really sounds like he know the game. So, what is some of your sports background, man? Like, what did you do growing up, and how far did it take you?
So I don't know where my takes have come from because I've played not a single snap of organized football, not a single one in rec league,
Mm.
pee wee, flag, middle school, D team, C team, JV, varsity. I never played a single snap of organized football, and I have laced them up to play for many church leagues, YMC rec leagues. I've never played any quote unquote meaningful organized basketball, but to a little bit to my an excuse for me is the basketball team we had when I was in high school. It was very tough. Like I didn't have a chance of making that team anyways, but like that team was loaded. Like we had really good squads my junior and senior year when Chris and Chandler and Joseph and Matthew McCullough and all them guys played. So I mean, I wasn't sniffing anything there anyways. But growing up, I drag race. That's something I've always did growing up.
Okay.
I started when I was 8 years old drag racing in a junior dragster, and I raced a junior dragster until 2008. I raced it for uh, till I was 8 till I was 17. So I raced for 9 years, and in my junior dragster, I won 5 championships in those 9 years. I won 4 track championships at Greer Dragway in a junior dragster. I won a Carolina Cup championship, which was a point series that was between racetracks in North Carolina that you would travel throughout the year and run different racetracks in North Carolina, and they kept a point series. And then I won the 2005. I won the IHRA Division 9 bracket finals,
Mm.
which the number of the division isn't like football or college. Like Division 2 in drag racing is just your central location. Like Division 9 was the southeast. Division 1 was the west coast. Division 2,
Oh,
that's
okay.
how they separated the divisions. So I won the Division 9 Summit Super Series bracket finals, which is where like so to make it a little more easy, Greer Dragway runs every year. They have a top class, a modified class, and a junior dragster class. And then they take the top 8 junior dragsters, the top X amount of modified, the top X top, and then they go and compete against other racetracks around the country at the bracket finals. So you represent your racetrack. So it'd be like your high school taking the best of the best to go compete against other high schools in one big tournament is kind of an easy way to explain it. So I've won that before. And then I've won a top in 2015. I won a Greer Dragway Pro Championship. So that's what consumed all my time. I drag raced every Saturday from March till November, somewhere, some way, Saturday or Sunday, but it was always at least Saturday my entire life.
So this man got the need for speed. So I bet you
Yep,
that
yep.
still creeps up on you now, man. Do you ever just sit at a light and just be like, man, I'm about to punch it right here?
See, no, I get that a lot, but like I guess since I've raced so much and I drag race still to now on Saturdays, I have no desire to speed. I have no desire to like when I was younger there was a little bit. Like I've got my fair share of speeding tickets when I was 20, 21, but now closer to 30, like I am the cruisiest of cruise controls, man. Like if the speed limit's 60, I'm gonna lock it in about 63, getting in the slow lane, and I'm turning on a podcast or like playing music, and I'm no hurry to get anywhere, man. The bigger hurry you are, the more stress, the more anxiety. Like I am just push the clutch in. I try to live my life that way. I try not to be in a hurry to get anywhere.
Oh, okay. So do you watch drag racing or do you do watch NASCAR or you do both? Like, are you into both of those things or what?
So I don't keep up with NASCAR a whole lot. I know that's the easy reference because it's so popular, but I mean, I still watch drag racing and I keep up with it. And something that has got a bunch of eyes on drag racing in the past 4 or 5 years now, probably, is the Discovery show Street Outlaws. I don't know if you've seen that on your television, but there's a show on Discovery that's called Street Outlaws, and they take cars that are built to race on a drag strip and they race it on the street. And it is a huge show that has branched off and developed other smaller shows under it on Discovery. And it's got a bunch of eyes on drag racing because of that show. It's good for drag racing, but the whole point of drag racing was drag strips were built so people didn't race on the street.
Mm.
So it's kind of ass backwards if you ask me. But um, it's called Street Outlaws, but they're not really racing on the street. They
Yeah.
they they rent out a section of highway from somewhere. They have the road blocked off. They have diesel lights out there. They have medical teams. So it's not actually like we're sneaking out somewhere in street racing. It's a whole production. I mean, Discovery's paying for it, so it's a whole production, as you can
Yeah.
imagine.
That's wild. You right. I did not see that coming. I'm not going front. Like I thought you at least if anything, I thought you at least play football or baseball. Like I thought it was at least one of those. At least that was one. I was thinking about that today because I was listening to this podcast and I was like, man, the one thing I regret. I regret never trying baseball. That's the one sport that I wish I would have tried, but I never got into it.
So as a guy looking in now, and I've even had conversations with my dad about that. I'm like, I'm 20, 28, 29, and I'm like, why didn't I play pee wee football? Like, I'm bad. Like, why didn't you sign me up for that? I didn't have a choice back then. Why didn't you sign me up? And he's like, man, you had so many allergies and asthma. Like, if you touched a blade of grass, you couldn't breathe. Like, we couldn't let you play
Oh shit!
football and this and that. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't remember stuff like that. You don't remember bad parts of your childhood like that. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm fine with that then. Like you were the one
Hey,
you were a good parent. You were making the right choices. So um it all worked out. But you know, I've thought about that too. Like I had a good friend that he graduated Greer a couple years ago and he's in a smaller college, but he played football and soccer. And
mhm.
and the college wanted him to play both, but you can't in college because they're same season in college, unlike high school. I was like, soccer cashes big paychecks.
Yes,
So, and like you're talking about baseball, there's a lot of guys on baseball teams, and baseball is a lot less taxing on your body. And then baseball contracts, they're huge. Like them guys are cashing big checks.
yes, and guaranteed.
Yeah, 10
Yeah,
years, 500 million, 10 years, 430 million. It's unreal, man.
man, man, who you telling? So, so you get done with the drag racing, and so now you started a career in podcasting. So how did you get into the lane of podcasting?
So it was kind of wild because it's something that I've been interested in for a while, and it was always something I brought up to my wife. I was like, I'd like to do a podcast. I'd like to talk. I'd like to talk to people. I'd like to interview people. I'd like to talk sports because I love talking shop. Like I love just cutting it up with people, like different opinions, different takes. So it was something that I've talked about for a long time, but it's easy to procrastinate, right? Like we all have things we want to do, but it's like, I'll get to that. 10 years later, you still haven't done it. So one day I'm just sitting here at the house and I get a message and it's from Jamar Dean, which we, everybody knows JD, but he's like, hey, my brother said you would be a really good guest on my podcast. Would you be interested in coming on? And I'm like, I haven't talked to Chris. I see Chris occasionally, and we were friends in high school, but man, I haven't even talked to Chris in a while. Like, this is wild that this is even like why Chris brought me up. So I was like, yeah, of course. And we do a podcast when he was still with another network, and it was one of those, it was an hour and a half long, and we just finally were like, we can't go any longer. We got to get off of here. We talked for another hour off the show. He's like, man, you need to come on anytime you want. And then when he started Distinctive Drip Network, and we decided to start doing U3 with me and him and Chris, the ball just kind of started rolling, and it was like, we're going to do this every other week. And we did it every other week for about a month, and it was like, guys, people do 2-hour sports shows every day. Like, First Take is every day, and they can fill 2 hours. We're going 2 weeks without talking about sports, and we're trying to limit everything to an hour. Like, we can't touch everything that's going on. So we're like, well, let's go to a week. So we went to a week. And I think there for a little bit we were doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it just kept growing and growing. And then, we branched into doing a fantasy football and a daily betting show. You bet on it. And we just kind of haven't looked back since. And, Jamar has the whole network with shows nightly, just about like, you see him on Twitter. Like, dude has a show every day just about. And I've hopped on a couple of them, and man, it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. It's wild the way it kind of happened, because I'd probably still be procrastinating. I'd still be like, well, I need to finish I need to have a studio. I need to have this and that and this and that. You don't need all that. You really don't need all that. So, it's pretty much how it happened. He put out an olive branch, and I grabbed it, and we haven't looked back.
That's what's up, man. Like, that's the thing with JD. He do not mind reaching out. I had a huge problem about reaching out to people. And see, when I started my podcast, I actually started it solo. Like, my first episode of the Stolen Time podcast is by myself. And I talked to a friend of mine, my homeboy Mark, and he was just like, I told him the thing. He listened to it. He was like, look, it was cool. I was like, what do you think I could do better at? So he told me some things I was trash at, and which I appreciated his honesty. And then he told me some things that was good, but he was like, yo, like, you really need a co-host. And I'm like, well, shit, like, I don't really talk to nobody. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know anybody that was interested in podcasting, because out of like the whole little crew that we got going on here, as far as like JD, Scoots, you've been on the show with him, and all these people, I was like the first person to start a podcast out of like this whole little circle. And so I didn't have nobody to reach out to. I didn't know anything really. And so I talked to my uncle. He came on the second episode, and then, we ended up making it to, over 200 episodes, and, until he passed. So like in the middle of that, JD reached out to me, and because he heard that I was doing a podcast, he saw that I was posting it on social media and stuff. And he was like, he just reached out and was like, yo, what's up, Sean? I'm thinking about starting a podcast. Is there any pointers you can give me? So we exchanged numbers. I called him, and I just told him everything I knew, because I didn't have anybody in the beginning to talk to, or even get information from, or anything like that. I ended up linking up with Scoots back around. He was on the first time he came on my podcast, the Stolen Time podcast, was episode 27. So we go back, like, he started the podcast like a couple of months after I did, and we found each other on Instagram, and we started. We exchanged numbers, started talking. I came on his podcast, came on my podcast, and so I told Jamar everything I knew. I was like, "Look, this is everything that I know." I said, "I don't know everything." Like, I was like probably like year two at that point, and to see where this dude has gone with the information that I've given him and the studying that he's done off of what I told him, like this dude has like skyrocketed. And it was like, and the one thing I tell him, the one dope thing about him is he put out a message, I don't know, like a year ago or whatnot. And he was just like, yo, like, I appreciate everybody, along this way, blase, blase. But he was like, I really want to shout out to Sean Foster because without him, this wouldn't have been possible. Like, he didn't have to say anything about me. You know what I mean? But like, just for somebody to realize the craft that, what I'm saying, that I have, and to start from nothing. Cause like, I know what you mean by the procrastinating, because I was like, I didn't even know when I started, I didn't find out what a podcast was till a couple months before. And then I read Charlemagne on the guy's book, Black Privilege, Opportunity Comes to Those Who Create It. And it's like, as soon as I got done with that book, the very first thing I did was I bought a mic. Like, I was like, yo, I'm starting this podcast. Like, I'm going to do it. So I was going to ask you how you linked up with him, but you answered that question by telling me that it was Chris. And you haven't even talked to Chris. And he still was like, yo, like this dude. So it is crazy how the world works, right? Because, all right, so I'm gonna tell you something else that's even more crazy. I don't know. You might have heard this story. I'm not sure. So I had this long distance relationship with this girl, right? This girl that was in the military, and she happened to be stationed in Ohio. So when me and Scoots decided to do the podcast together, the Viewers Anonymous, like he's from and live in Dayton, so we never met each other. So I go up to go see the old girl. So I'm like, yo, like I'm in Ohio, and I told him where I was. He was like, yo, you like 10 minutes from me. Dude, I was able to go to his house and do a podcast in person, and that was the first time I met him. Just like the world could be so small sometimes. Just what are the odds of me having like this long distance relationship with this girl that's in Ohio? Ohio's a big state, and she happened to be 10 minutes from where he stayed.
Dude, it's a small world. I got a good one for you that's very similar. So me and just before I go here, like, I've never met Jamar. Like I've never. I mean, I'm sure I went to every Greer High School basketball game my junior and varsity year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play, but I love like basketball. I have a love for football, but basketball is right there. Like it's hard for me. If I had to pick one, it'd take a long time for me to decide which one that I wanted to watch for the rest of. If you had to make that decision. But I went to every varsity game, and I didn't sit in the student section. I sat behind the bench. I was 2 rows behind the bench every game because I wanted to hear the huddles. I wanted to hear the timeouts. Like it was weird. I was that guy. I didn't want to be over there in the student section painted up. I wanted to hear the X's and O's and hear it get broke down and why we're subbing this guy and what's hurting us here. That's what I was interested in. So I'm sure me and Jamar crossed paths and didn't know it, but I've never physically shook Jamar's hand, and we do a podcast every week. Like I've never met him, but
Yeah.
me and Aaron, on our honeymoon, we went to Carlsbad, California, and we went to Vegas and we rented a car, and then we drove to Carlsbad, which is right in the middle of San Diego and LA. It was like
Okay.
30-minute drive to San Diego, 45-minute drive north to LA. So Erin, she loves like celebrity TMZ stuff. She's like, I want to do a bus tour. Like I want to do one of these bus tours where they show you Beverly Hills and the Rodeo Drive. So I'm like, okay, we're here, so let's, we're tourists, really. Let's be tourists. So we go to the Santa Monica Pier, and we do bus tour, and we go to this little Santa Monica surf shop, and we're doing a bus tour, and I'm at this surf shop. We sign in. I'm standing in line to go to the bathroom. Before I get started, and I have a Panther hat on, and the guy running the surf shop walks by. He's like, "How's everything going today?" And I was like, "Not too bad." I was like, "Traffic was hell," which, I mean, we always hear about that out there, and it ain't a joke. Makes Atlanta look like nothing. So I was like, "Traffic was bad," and he's like, "Oh," he goes, "Panther fan?" I'm like, "Yep." He goes, "Where are you from?" And you know what? Like, when I'm on the other side of the country, I'm not going to say Greer, South Carolina. I said
Yeah.
South Carolina. He's like, "Where at?" And I was like, "Upstate." Because, I'm trying to be broad, so
Yeah.
maybe he understands where I'm from. I'm like, "The upstate." And he's like, "Where at?" I'm like, "The little town in between Greenville and Spartanburg." Because I'm still trying to say
Yeah.
things he may know. I'm like, "Little town between Greenville and Spartanburg." And he's like, "Greer?" I'm like, "Yeah, Greer." He goes, "Like Highway 14?" I'm like, "Yeah, like we lived on Highway 14 for the first 20 years of my life. Like that's where my family's house was." He goes, "Oh, that's cool. Me and my family lived in Blue Ridge for about 5 years and then just walked off." I was like,
Wow.
I am as far away from home as I can be without being on a boat. Like without crossing water, I couldn't be farther away than I am
Yep.
right now. And I met a guy that's like knows exactly where I live, like lived right up the road at some point in my life, and he's on the other side of the country now. I'm like, I just walked back up. Aaron was waiting. I just walked back up, and I was like, she's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, my mind just got blown. Like I don't know what just happened. I was like, I told her the story, and she's like, "That's crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, small world that we
Oh
live
yeah. Oh, I got one. So you remember Bob Mazzulo, right?
in." Yeah, it's hard to
Okay.
forget.
So I went to Fairmont State University. It's in West Virginia, Fairmont, West Virginia. It's like 20 minutes from Morgantown. By the way, Morgantown is a great place to party. So anyway, so I'm going to Fairmont State University. I'm up there playing football, and I got one of my Greer, sweat hoodies on. You know what I'm saying? You go to college, you always got to rep your school. So I'm repping my school. Kid comes up to me, well, not kid, we're the same age, but dude come up to me. He was like, "You went to Greer?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, Bob Mazzulo? I'm like, "Yeah, like, that's my man. Like, yeah, it was one of the coaches of my football team. Yeah, that's my uncle." I'm like, "Yo, you got to be kidding me." Like, I am going to Fairmont State, West Virginia. It's 7.5 hours away. And Bob Mazzulo's nephew go to the same college that I go to.
See, and
Crazy.
younger people, like, that's one thing that like scares me. Um, Having conversations like that makes you realize it's a small world and you have all these connections. But most of today's youth is like this, and they
Yep.
don't want to actually have any conversations with people, and they don't realize that you have all these connections or you have these relationships with somebody that's a complete stranger. That if you would just have a conversation with them, and I say that all the time, like you're on Twitter, so you see it. I was
Hmm.
telling Aaron about it earlier. Like, I think Twitter's a garbage can, in my opinion. Like, it is, you see the worst people that humankind can possibly make on Twitter. You'll see some tweets and you're like, is this really what humans are? Like, that people that will tweet and say stuff like this, like, what are we anymore? But then you'll have a conversation at a gas station that completely makes you think, oh, there is hope. There is hope for people.
Yeah.
But people don't want to take the time to have conversations. They just want to tweet and post and retweet and yell at people on their phone that they would never say in real life. They would say something to you or me on Twitter or any other social media platform that if they were in front of us, they wouldn't even think about saying.
Yep.
It's just this bravery that they have on a phone that makes the world just it makes us think the world's a worse place than it is. I don't know if it gives people access to be their true self, and we're actually seeing what people truly are, or they're trying to impress people and they want the shock factor because they know it'll get them attention. So it's hard to really narrow down which one it is. Like, is this a mirror into who somebody really is, or are they just doing everything for attention because they know it'll get people to yell at them, retweet it? What is this person thinking? It's I have a tough time trying to figure it out.
Yeah, see, I'm old enough to remember because when I went to Fairmont State, it was 2006. So back then, Facebook, you couldn't get a Facebook without a college email. So I remember what things was like before this whole social media shit took over, and like that's what you had to do. You know what I'm saying? You had to communicate with people, and then like a college atmosphere is different. Well, when I went, like it was different anyway. So it was just like that's how we really interact with each other. Like there wasn't, well, it did have a DMs and on Facebook, but like I mean, I only was friends with people that I went to college with, but like now it's you opened up to everything. You opened up to celebrities. You got people who whole day got changed by just a celebrity retweeting they tweet. You know what I mean?
How many people's days have been ruined by Kanye over the past 4 years?
Listen, I don't even say that dude name on my platform. Like, yo, like I'm telling you, that's one thing I would never do. Like me, my guy Casey and Scoots, like we talk about this all the time. I said one thing I'm not gonna be is a shot job. Like I'm not going to tarnish my integrity on just talking about the hot stuff that everybody's talking about, and oh well, he's big in the news today, so I'm gonna pot about him. Like, nah, like that's one thing that I told myself I'm not gonna do. And I do, man, listen, my uncle, oh man, he's rolling over in his grave. Well, if he got cremated, but if he was in the ground, he'd be turning over because the last thing that he said on the platform about Kanye was boycott him. Like, don't buy his music, don't listen to his music, don't stream his music, nothing. And my uncle passed last year in June, but the last time he actually got the pod with me, I think it was January of 2000 or 2001. And he was saying this about Kanye then. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I don't mention that dude.
Sorry, I brought him up then.
I can't do it, dude. Like I didn't even listen to the album. Like people like, oh man, I'm telling you, man, that Donda was I don't care. Like I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to entertain it.
Dude, I have people like that. There's certain people that I'm just like, I just don't. I'm not giving them the time of day anymore. Like I don't like them. I didn't like them. I'm not listening. There's certain people that I don't have the taste for anymore, and they could be making great content now, but I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care. And like Aaron Rodgers is one of them. To go back to sports, like Jamar's like, what if he goes to the Panthers? I'm like, just put an asterisk by those years. I just won't be a fan. I'm like, I have no use for Aaron Rodgers. I don't know why. He rubs me the wrong way. He's arrogant. It's just some people, man. You just write off, and I'm just like, nah, I'm good.
Well, it's funny you bring him up because it just came out. I think the news literally came out yesterday or today that him and his fiance broke it apart after 2 years, and like the thing about Aaron Rodgers, the thing that's weird about him is the whole thing of him and his parents don't even rock with each other. And now the reason I always found that interesting, I'm not gonna go on a whole little spiel here, but me and my mom don't really rock with each other. Like we're we're fine, but we're definitely not son and mother. Like we, she really only texts me when she wants me to do something for her. Hey, I need this one thing put together, or like it's we just don't talk. So I always found him interesting because like you hear all these stories. Oh man, my I wouldn't be here without my parents, or I wouldn't be do this. And I always thought it was interesting to hear somebody from a different point of view saying like, yo, like I don't even rock with them. So it always drew me to him to see like what I wonder what's that disconnect, because I think that everyone just pretty much kind of always assume that oh man, you got to have a great relationship with your mom, or some cases the father either wasn't there or he was, or whatever the case may be. But it's just like to hear someone with the status that he has to have an issue with his parents. I always thought it was just interesting to hear. Only time I really heard him like really talk about it is when he was on like the Dan Levitard show, and I just thought it was interesting. And I'm like, wow, like that's weird. But I don't know. But it's going around that he could possibly go to the 49ers once they trade Jimmy G. I wouldn't go as far as saying putting the asterisk, because I still think on the field, he's, to me, I mean, my personal opinion, I think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks to play. One of, I didn't say the, but one of. Like he's definitely in my top 10. But I mean, I'll take him because that's only because I think the jury's still out on Lance, man. I just don't know. Like the odds for guys that play quarterback that went to that certain level, there's not a lot of great examples. Like really, like the last one, they kind of played in the same era was Steve McNair and Kurt Warner. But like
Kurt Warner.
And before that, it was Phil Simms. So it's kind of like there ain't a lot of examples of guys going to. I mean, there are a lot, but there's only like 3 or 2 outliers, and like that's it.
The last one we've seen that's been even remotely close that isn't a good example because he hasn't been good lately is Carson Wentz. I mean, he had that MVP season before he got hurt, and then he's really looked bad since then. No, I don't diminish anything that dudes did physically. Aaron Rodgers is gifted. He makes the game look really easy. It just looks unusually easy to him. Like nothing out there when he's scrambling, the throws he makes, it's like me and you playing against toddlers on a little tight skull. it looks unusually easy to him. But I really like because people like to use that he doesn't have a good relationship with his parents as a negative. Like, he doesn't even have a good relationship with his parents. How do you expect him to have a good relationship with the organization? They always use that as a negative. And I like the fact that you spun it to that doesn't have to be a negative. It's just different. Like the measuring stick isn't always the same for great athletes, because you look at on the basketball side of it, you've got Michael, and Michael had a good home life. His dad unfortunately got murdered. But I mean, his mom and dad were together. They were in his life his whole time. He went to school close to home. But then the guy that gets constantly compared to him is from a single mother. Dad was never in the picture, and LeBron, and he's been in the spotlight since he was 14, 15, I know 16 years old, and the dude's never faltered. There's never been a scandal. There's never been a thought of a scandal. He's married his high school sweetheart. He's a great father. And it's like not all great human beings are created equal. It's not everybody has the same path to being a good human.
Definitely, man. And I had the honor to have one of his best friends from high school, Willie McGee, on my podcast. And Willie, I went to college with him. Willie was one of the quarterbacks on the football team. And like I didn't even know until like after I was already up there for a year, that I was like, Willie, like, yeah, like Willie, he played with LeBron. I'm like, fuck out of here. They was like, nah, like he did. And I asked him, he was like, yeah. Like he was just all nonchalant about it. Like it's you know what I'm saying? Like it's not a big deal. He was like, this has been my life because he played AAU ball with LeBron growing up. So he's been beside this dude for years. So it's just like to him, he's just like, hey, yeah,
He's one of the
fine, like
guys.
whatever. Yeah. And I was just and to see what he is now, man, he's the AD at St. Vincent St. Mary right now. And he's been there for a couple of years and it was just like that's just one of them things, man. Just going to college, like you just never know like who you're gonna run into. And
Life,
like another dude,
life's about networking, man. You got to network
yeah,
with people.
yeah. Another dude that was on the football team was Nick Swisher's brother. He was on the football team. So it was just like I'm in this little town and I'm playing football with a dude who threw passes to LeBron and won well, I think they only won that one championship when LeBron was a senior because they lost his junior year. And the dude who I think at the time I think his brother was with I think he was with the Yankees at the time. Or he might have still been with Cleveland. No, I think he was still with Cleveland. I think he was still with Cleveland. But it was just weird, man. It was just weird. But so since we're gonna stay in the football, man, what was your overall thoughts on Cincinnati Rams Super Bowl? What was your thoughts of it, man?
Um, I think immediate reaction is disappointment simply because of the football that we got the 2 weeks prior. The championship weekend was great football, and the divisional round week was incredible football with all the games that we had going to overtime and the comebacks and the Bills Chief game, the Rams Buccaneers game, and then last week the games we got. So it's kind of like when Burrow got the ball down 3, it's like, oh, well, go ahead and chalk it up. Dude's going to drive down and at least tie, if not take the lead. And then if he leaves 12 seconds, 15 seconds left, Stafford's probably going to drive right back down and put points up too. So it all boils down to that fourth quarter, and it's like it's kind of an offensive struggle there at some points in the game, and you're like, okay, well, here we are, crunch time. It's fireworks are about to start going off.
Mm-hmm.
And when the first play in the fourth quarter, when they were down by 3, he hits Jamar Chase for I think 24 yards, 19 yards on the left side of the field on that 10-yard comeback route, and he put the ball perfectly toward the sideline where Jamar Chase could catch it and immediately turn upfield. And Jalen Ramsey was playing inside, so he threw him open where he could get yards after the catch. And I'm like, oh, that's a drive starter. That is a kick starter.
Yep.
I was like, I was on the edge of the seat. I was like, whoo. And then when the drive kind of fizzled on that after they get 9 yards on first down, and then they try to run it with, I don't understand why Joe Mixon's not in the game at that point, and you're playing Samaje Perine. He can't get the ball when they run it on 2nd and 1. And then they try to get greedy and think Jalen Ramsey's going to be playing into the backfield, and they just have to throw it away on 3rd and 1. And then, to almost sack on 4th down, it was just kind of like, man, I wasn't expecting that type of ending to that game after the weeks before. But I just saw extreme maturity out of Joe Burrow. Something I saw on the very last play of the game that I watched as a guy, like I said earlier in the podcast, never taking a snap, but as that guy on the couch watching football, yelling at these guys that are being tackled by 300-pound defensive linemen, going, why didn't you do this? I always like on 4th down at the end of the game, guys that take sacks, it drives me insane. Like, just put the ball up. Like, put it up in the air. Like, if it gets intercepted, the game's over anyways, but at least put it up in play. And he's getting thrown down, ragdolled by Aaron Donald, and he put the ball in play. It was, 12 inches from an amazing play to Samaje Perine on the right side of the field. So I just like, man, this kid's got it. And I talked about that on U3. Nobody can define it and what it is. You only know what
Mm-hmm.
it is when you see it. And
Yep.
that he just has it. But I'm happy for Stafford and I'm happy for Odell, especially after Odell got hurt. I'm happy for Odell that he got a ring because, man, I thought Odell was about to have a historic performance after that first quarter.
Same. I did too. And it's ironic that you used the word disappointed because week 10, right? 49ers beat the Rams 31-10. Week 14, 49ers beat the Bengals 26-23. Week 18, 49ers beat the Rams 27-24. And it's like we beat both of the teams that's in the Super Bowl. One of them twice. But we just couldn't get the one that third time. And it was just like I was leading up to the game. I was like, do I even really want to watch this shit? I'm like, because I'm thinking to myself, like, I know we got some flaws, but all teams got flaws. There's no such thing as a perfect team. And I'm sitting there looking at it like, yo, like my Niners supposed to be here right now. And that's why I said on a 4-3 podcast, I was like, yo, I want Tampa Bay to beat the Rams. I said, because you don't realize how hard it is not only to beat a team 2 times in the same season, and you got to play them a third, but to add that you have beaten this team 6 straight times. Like, all them other 6 wins don't matter anymore. Like, only this one matters. Like, this is the one. Now, even though they had to win week 18 to even get in the playoffs, because they would have lost that game, they wouldn't even made it. So that was a must win for the 49ers, but not the Rams. So it's funny you say disappointment because I was like, yo, we supposed to be right here. And I still feel, even with Jimmy, we could have won that game against the Bengals. But the one thing that stood out to me, I always watch. I always look at.
Keep going. I gotta run real quick. I gotta run right over here and grab something real quick.
All right. So the one thing that stood out to me, because when I watch football, I am a defensive back guy through and throughout. So I am watching Jalen Ramsey out here. Now, is Jalen Ramsey a guy that jumps on routes? He's one of those defensive backs that I would call a chance taker. He takes a lot of chances. He jumps on a lot of routes, and he do get beat on double moves. And so I'm hearing people, oh, well, Jalen, he got beat by, Jamar on this play. He got beat by Higgins on this play. And it's like, yo, this dude is one of the few corners that will willingly go and play the best receiver on the other team's team. There aren't a lot of corners that are going to do that. And to hear people who, I don't want to say necessarily didn't play football, because you can understand the game without playing. But at the same time, to take on the task of playing the best receiver pretty much every week, you're going to lose some battles from here and there. And I think that people just don't realize how difficult it is to play corner. Corner, to me, I don't care what nobody say, that's the hardest position to play. You're literally following a guy around that knows where he's going. And then even if you are in zone coverage, the quarterback and the receiver are going to be on the same page to know, hey, I need to sit in this little pocket right here. So it's easy to blame a corner. Oh man, Jalen got beat right here. It's like, yo, he's playing the best receiver on the other team. Like, these guys are NFL players too. Like, you're gonna take an L on the play from time to time. So, and this is just not me being biased to Jalen because he went to Florida State, but at the same time, like, the dude is a great corner, man. He's like the best corner in the league. And yeah, he's gonna miss a few plays. Now that one, it was a face mask. His head got turned around, and it's just like when that ball is in the air, dude. It's like for somebody to turn your head, even though like in regular running time, it probably was like 2 seconds. You lose the ball in them 2 seconds, it's over. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just like when Boyd dropped that pass that would have gave them that third on that third down. He took his eyes off the ball. He started he looked and then he started looking upfield. It was 1 second. He looked upfield and he dropped the ball. So it's like even like 1 second, it was like a tenth of a second. So I think that when I'm watching this game, I always look at the defensive backs and look, everybody's killing Eli Apple. But the thing about Eli Apple, he put himself in this position. You know what I'm saying? He talked all of that shit.
Yeah, he asked for every bit that he's getting. Right
he did. He did. And yes. And you deserve it. I'm sorry. I usually take up a defensive backs, but hey, you willing to talk, you got to be able to take it back. That's the one thing. And I think that's another thing about Jalen. When Jalen got beat for that first touchdown, he was like, my bad. Because Jalen knows he talk a lot of shit.
We talked about that before the show started. A guy that can take ownership to his own mistakes, you get a different level of respect. Like Jalen said, that's me. He didn't look at the ref wanting a call or looking at the safety like, where were you at? He said, that's me. Like, you get a different level of respect for your entire team when you look at him and go, that was me. I own that. It's very grown up to do things like that. And you're exactly right. And we had Jeremy Bridges on our show the other week on it was actually Straight Shooting with Carm that night, but he played offensive lineman. He was a tackle, played for the Panthers and the Cardinals, and he said, I was telling him I thought being an offensive lineman was the hardest position to play in the NFL, even over quarterback or anything else, because you can play a perfect game, and an offensive lineman, if you have 70 offensive snaps, that offensive lineman that's 330 plus is playing 70 snaps. It isn't like a defensive tackle or a defensive end that gets to come off the field and get a breather. Or, even a wide receiver on a running play, if you're pulled out wide and the runs to the right, you're not blocking. You in that corner. That corner kind of knows when you don't do anything off the ball, it's like, okay, well, this play's over. We're just going to sit here until they get done. And so everybody gets a break except for an offensive lineman. And now with the way they scheme up wide receiver screens, and you've got tackles that are running from the left hash all the way to the numbers over here to block for a wide receiver screen, I feel like you're putting even more pressure on those big guys to move around. And I said, I feel like it's one of the hardest positions to play. He said offensive linemen and defensive backs are exactly the same. And I was like, okay, you got my attention now. Explain. He said it's the only two positions on the football field that have to react to everything. He said, I am backing up. I have to wait until the defensive lineman makes a move, and then I have to react. Same thing with the defensive back. He's backing up till the wide receiver makes the first move, and then he has to react. He said every other play, they're initiating the movement. We're the only two people that don't get to initiate the movement. We have to react to what the player that's in front of us does. He said, that's why offensive linemen and defensive backs chirp at each other all the time and they don't get along because they're the same people. I was like, okay, well, that's a different perspective.
It is, dude. It is. And look, and when I went to college, I was they put me at receiver, so I didn't play defensive back there. But playing defensive back for 3 years in high school, but like we was highly competitive. Grill wasn't no slouch. Like we always had a good football team, and we always showed up. And it's just like to play that position, because that dude is actually right in something else. He might have mentioned this. I'm not sure. But if you got somebody who really knows the game, when they see a quarterback get sacked, they're blaming that lineman. Holding call, you blaming the lineman. False start, you blaming the lineman. And when you get beat for a pass and it's just you and that receiver, oh man, that dude, he a scrub, man. That dude, sorry. It's like you can't make one mistake at defensive back without somebody calling you sorry. And it's like it is tough. And offensive line is the same way, because offensive linemen, for offensive linemen, they don't want their name called. Because if your
No.
name get called, that means you got a holding call or you got a penalty. And it's like when it's defensive back, even like another thing, like I was talking about earlier about like watching film and stuff, right? So the whole thing with Reeves Allen, you remember that era?
Golly, what I
He would,
remember that area specifically, and even more because my cousin JJ's a Jets fan, so he never lets me forget about that Jets fans don't have a lot to brag about, so
yeah.
that's one of the shining things they can brag about. So I don't get to I know about all that way too well.
And the whole point of me bringing it up was like he would make the Pro Bowl every year, but he would only have like maybe 2 interceptions, 3 pass deflects, and it's because they don't throw the ball to his side. Like that's when you know you're great when you make the Pro Bowl with 2 interceptions. It's because they just don't try you. He eliminated a whole side of a field, and to be able to do something like that, like if you asked me what was my best game, like if you let's say you watch my career, you'd be like, oh man, it's got to be that Greenville game your senior year. You had 2 picks against the best receiver, undefeated team in the playoffs, crunch time. Stat wise, that might have been my best game, but my best game was my sophomore year. We played Burns. They ended up having one receiver. He ended up going to Pittsburgh. His name was Terrell Allen. But the way me and Sergio did it was so we could get used to playing both sides of the field. When the field flipped, I just stayed on that side. So I was on Burns' sideline the whole game. So I played left corner and then I played right corner. I didn't give up one pass that game. Nobody caught any balls on me. Now you would think, oh, well, you had 2 picks this game, but like no, like it's more of an accomplishment for nobody to catch a pass on your side the whole game, and it's just like, and I think that's another reason why I stand firm on my one argument of like championships don't make you great. Like sometimes you're in either a bad situation or like, and I think basketball is just a tad different because you can come in because when you're in a sport where it's 5 guys, a total of 10, one guy can make a huge difference. But when it's 11 guys on the field, there's only so much you can do.
It's
You know,
numbers. You're 20% of the team. You're 20% of the starting lineup in basketball, and you're less than 10 in football. So it's just easy numbers, man. You can make a bigger impact. And you're right. One man in football can't carry a team. We've watched that over and over and over again, and it doesn't work.
yeah, like I would to the end of time. I mean, maybe somebody will change my mind one day, but to the end of time, to me, Barry Sanders is the best running back I've ever seen. And it's
Yeah,
yeah, he didn't win anything. I don't even think they might have made it to the playoffs one year, maybe.
and
If
maybe.
that. I don't even know. But like his impact on the field, like if he because I'm all about situational football. You switch on Emmett Smith with him? What? Can you imagine? First of all, I never thought Emmitt Smith was that good anyway. But he had the best offensive line throughout the 90s. Throw him in Detroit and you throw Barry Sanders in Dallas.
Yep. I
Dallas wouldn't
mean,
have lost.
no, you've got a good example because think about Zeke his rookie year when he got paid off of that huge year he had with that great offensive line in Dallas. And you take a guy that runs behind a bad offensive line, like if you was to put since I'm a Panther fan, like throw Christian McCaffrey behind that Dallas offensive line and the numbers would have just been gaudy. I mean, he had a thousand year a couple years ago. He'd have had a 2,000 year if he was running behind an offensive line like that. It's situations. You're right. Like sometimes people aren't put in good situations, and they shouldn't be punished for that. It's not their fault. LeBron was drafted to Cleveland. They never won the first time around in Cleveland. Is that LeBron's fault? It's not LeBron's fault. He did all he could do. So I don't blame LeBron at all when it's that first time. So situations make a good deal. It's the same thing with your daily life, work, employers. Like some situations aren't perfect, but And you're talking about defensive backs. I've had this theory for a long time as a Panther fan. That was the complete destruction and downfall of the Panthers after their Super Bowl year when they went to the Super Bowl in 2015 after going 15-1.
Mhm.
That offseason, they've wanted to franchise tag Josh Norman, and Josh Norman didn't sign the franchise tag. He was up in New York. He was all over ESPN doing commercials. He had a ton of limelight. He was kind of trash talking. Him and Odell had the big thing, so he had a lot of attention on him. He was up in New York on ESPN, and he was flying back that day to sign the franchise tag. He was going to sign it, and David Gettleman pulled it. He didn't. He took the franchise tag off of him and let him walk. That year, we took our first and our second round draft pick, and we drafted James Bradbury and we drafted Darryl Worley. And James Bradbury panned out to be a good cornerback that we also let walk. He plays for the Giants now, but Darryl Worley ended up not panning out. So we used our first and second round draft picks on corners because we let Josh Norman walk. And our biggest weakness in that Super Bowl was offensive line. Cam got beat like a drum in the Super Bowl against Von Miller. Von Miller he beat Mike Remmers like a drum. And you let Josh Norman walk, and to me that was the crumbling because Cam got hurt that next year because we had no offensive line. So not signing Josh Norman and locking up that corner spot, because Josh Norman, he's not a Darrelle Revis and he's not a Dion. He's not on that level. But at the time, he was arguably the best corner in the game, and he could lock down a guy on one side of the field. So when they lost that, with him locking down a guy and Luke Kuechly running the defense from the middle, it was very hard to stop. And I'm going to get off my soapbox about that now, but that's just how important the corner spot is. Like, it can drastically affect the game.
It definitely can, man. So how did you feel about the halftime show, man?
Oh, it was good. I I'm not getting on this bandwagon of everybody saying it was the best halftime show of all time, because I think rightfully so that goes to Prince and Michael Jackson in whatever order you want to put them in.
Hmm.
Some people put Michael first, some people put Prince first. I personally put Prince first just because of the rain. Like, God couldn't have painted a better picture for that halftime show of it raining on Prince playing Purple Rain. So uh, I have Prince then Michael Jackson, and this one's probably third for me all time. It's most definitely top five. It's probably third. But man, I wasn't expecting another cameo. I mean, you've already got five people in the lineup, four people. So I'm not expecting a 50 Cent cameo. But man, when that camera went down and 50 was hanging upside down, I was like, oh, the nostalgia that is coursing through my veins right now. This is awesome. And I didn't want it to end. Like, I hated
Yep.
that it was only 17 minutes or whatever it is. Because you could have played three more Dre songs, you could have played two more Snoop songs, you could have played two more Eminem songs. Um, I hated that it ended so quickly, because something that I felt made this halftime show really good is we don't get to see Dr. Dre. Like, you see
Hmm.
Snoop Dogg everywhere.
Yep.
Like, if I watch TV tonight, I'll see Snoop Dogg on two commercials before I go to bed. Um, but you don't get to see Dr. Dre. Like, I don't know if he still tours, but if he does tour, he's not coming near us. And if he does, I can't afford tickets, so you don't get to see him. He and Eminem both kind of have this Michael Jordan effect where they were great and then they disappeared. It was like their ghost. It's like, that's what makes Michael so special. Is it's almost like Michael's dead. Like, Michael was
Hey, his
great.
birthday today.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
happy birthday, Mike. I think we got him coming on in a minute. So if everybody's tuning in, like Mike will be on in a minute. But it's like that's something that makes Michael really cool. Is it's almost like he's untouchable. Dude's alive, but it's this weird ambiance around him where he doesn't do interviews, he doesn't do late night shows, he doesn't do talk shows, he doesn't do interviews. You don't see him in the news, you don't see him on social media. Like it's like he's dead. Like you rarely see him. Like if they can catch him on camera at a Charlotte game drinking a Coke, you'll see it all over Instagram the next day. Every Sports Center Bleacher Report, every Michael Jordan drinking Coca-Cola at the game. He looked a little angry. It's like, and it's the same thing with like Eminem and Dr. Dre. It's like they kind of disappeared from the limelight. Like they don't do award shows. Like you don't see them performing at the Grammys or MTV. Like you don't see them giving interviews. So it was really cool to see them. And when you do see them, it's like it's never enough. It's like you want to keep seeing. It's like, why is this over? I want more. I want more of this. Um, and I know Eminem had to play "Lose Yourself" because that's kind of, I mean, that's what put him on the map. But that's not the song I wanted to hear. Like I
Nah.
wanted, that's not
Mm-mm.
that's not what I wanted to hear. And Kendrick's still young, where Kendrick is still making music, so we get more Kendrick. And 50 Cent is still he's making TV shows, and with Vitamin Water, you're gonna see more 50 Cent. So it's like there was some stuff I thought I was about to see happen, like the guys that were doing the background dancing with Kendrick Lamar when they came out of the box with the blonde hair. I'm like, these guys in just a minute after Kendrick gets done, they're gonna like come back around and they're gonna have white t-shirts on. They're gonna be like Slim Shady. They're gonna be like Slim Shadys when Eminem starts performing. Like this is gonna be really, really cool. And that didn't happen. So I was kind of disappointed that didn't happen. And I told Aaron all along, I was like, I really hope Eminem comes out with bleached hair and a white t-shirt and his beard shaved off. That's the Eminem I want to see. Like I don't want to see this bearded Eminem come out. So I was kind of disappointed in that too.
Man, look, I'm with you. Prince, Michael Jackson is up there. Prince is up there. For a visual stance, I'm gonna say Shakira and J Lo. They yeah. So, but yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna go prisoner of the moment and say the best, but culture wise, it was the best culture wise for the simple fact of what rap and hip hop means. All the influences that it has. To choose those people was really dope. To go along with your point about people not being in the limelight, Kendra's the same way. Kendra's old school like that. No Instagram, no Twitter. He don't interview. Like early in his career, you know, you might catch a freestyle and stuff like that. But like now, like Kendrick, he just chills. It was also great, even though I've been watching her every week for the past couple of weeks on Power Book 2, Mary J. Blige, complete legend in the game. And I actually listened to an interview that she just did yesterday. She was on Ebro in the morning, and they asked her about, like, we knew Family Affair was going to come. And it was like, why did you choose No Drama? She was like, really, Dr. Dre picked all the songs. Dr. Dre was in complete control of everything. And he did No Drama for her. And he thought that she should do No Drama. And she was like, the reasoning behind that was, she was like, all the COVID stuff that's going on, all the politics, the separation between, you know, politics and all stuff like that. She was just like, yo, like, I don't want no more drama. So
man, that just gave me a little cold chill, man, because that's what the world needs more of.
Yeah, and like, cause I was thinking the same thing. Now, don't get me wrong, I love that song. I've always loved that song, but I was like, why would she choose that for this situation? And hearing that interview, it's like, yo, that makes perfect sense. So yeah, and everybody made a meme of 50, but it's just like, I mean, like I know what I'm about to say, and I'm not being funny because it don't apply to me, but it applies to a lot of people. But like, they was like, who looked the way they looked 20 years ago?
Yeah, facts.
I mean, I graduated. I was 185. I'm 195 right now, so I'm still pretty close to what I
Yeah.
was, when I was in high school. But it's just like, yo, like we really expected 50. I thought it was a dope idea to do, even though everybody made a meme of it and say, oh, he's not 50 Cent, he's $1.25. Like, okay, have your fun, but you know what 50's doing right now? He's not worried about you. He's
Nah.
laying on his lavish bed, coming up with ideas for new shows. Like he really does not care.
He's
Now,
he's a mogul now. Like
yeah,
he's complete mogul.
definitely. And I did not want to hear "Lose Yourself." I could have picked a couple of more songs, and I mean, but I get it. It was like his biggest hit. Like what it did, what even that movie 8 Mile even did. At that time, "Lose Yourself" was just. I mean, it took a whole. Like I thought the real Slim Shady had even though it had a huge impact, it really did. But when "Lose Yourself" came out, like it just, even though it was never like my favorite song, but
It's
what it
still
meant,
like the mantra to run through a wall. Like everybody's like, oh, what? Like 90% of young people's, like if they had a game playlist or a Friday night playlist, "Lose Yourself's on it. Like it's on the majority of people's like game time playlist, and it's wild that it had that big of an effect on so many people.
yeah,
Still didn't
and
want
like
to hear it, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't want to hear. I love what Kendrick did. I love how he started out with the Good Kid, Mad City joint, even though people are mad because he said Pyrus and Crips. Um, but yo, this was just for things to shape up the way that they shaped up. The Super Bowl to be in LA, the home team LA is in it, and to have all of these people other than Mary J, she's from New York, and 50 from New York, and Eminem's from Detroit, but the rest of the people are like big in LA. So like Power Rules and Crip reference in the song, it's like, okay, y'all, like this is LA, like everybody there gets it, whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing, everybody gets it. But to do all right, I knew he was going to do all right, and I actually got the surprise guest right. I remember hearing they said it was going to be two surprise guests, and automatically for me that came to my mind was 50 Cent. I knew 50 Cent was one of them. The only reason I got the second one right was I was strolling on my phone before the game, and I saw Anderson .Paak in a picture with Kendrick. I was like, oh, it's Anderson .Paak. He came out and killed them drums, man. I
dude,
didn't know. I didn't know Dre brought him on. I did not know Dre signed him.
I didn't either. But that Silk Sonic album, that's you start it and listen to every song, and it is incredible. What him and Bruno did with Silk Sonic, if people haven't listened to it, they're doing themselves a disservice because he is incredible, man.
He is very incredible. I do a top 10 album every year. I think it was 2018. I think that Ventura. He did. Anderson .Paak did the album Ventura. Fire classic. It is a classic. Like 1 through 14, 15, whatever it was. That dude is very talented. He's an artist. He played drums. He played a guitar. He sings. You know what I'm saying? He raps. He does it all. So I really love that he was able to come out. But I'm with you. I'm not gonna go all the way as far as saying it's the best ever. But I think the impact on what it's gonna have on future Super Bowls, and Snoop Dogg is just. I mean, I didn't mention him, but that guy is just
Smooth. He's like so
he
smooth, man.
he is the smoothest guy ever. Like he might literally, if there was a thing called the smoothest guy award, like it's definitely Snoop.
Him
Snoop
just
can
crip
Snoop.
walking on live TV up there in the Super Bowl halftime show and just made it look so effortless and just he's just like he makes you smile. Like he makes all people smile. Like
Yes.
he's just so cool, man. Like he is just the coolest guy.
And then I gotta shout him out for this because people don't speak about this enough. This dude has like maybe 6 or 7 dudes from the football league that he created in the NFL right now. And he talked about like you have like rec league, you have to pay. He was just like with one thing that he realized that one of the reasons I started that league was there was parents who couldn't come up with that, 60, $80 or whatever it was or whatnot. And he was just like, yo, give me what you can. If you only can afford 10, boom, bring your kid on. For him to do that in the inner cities of the places that he's doing it, where kids just wanted the opportunity and their parents working 2, 3 jobs and they just don't have that extra money to get their kid on the football team. And then also just to be able to do an activity. Like I grew up in the era where, dude, I played football, basketball, ran track, and then I played AAU basketball and ran AAU track during the summer. Like I was constantly doing something, even though I was never the dude to really roam the streets. But it's always good to be able to have your kids in something, and in those bad areas where a lot of those kids are coming from, for Snoop to just be like, "Yo, I'm not worried about the cost. Like the best thing for your child is to get them off the streets. And if football is the answer, I'm gonna start a league. And now this dude got by at least I don't know 10 players that came from his little league in the NFL right now. So I want to shout out Snoop for that as well. So
No,
go ahead.
I know you'll appreciate this. Like the camera work when Kendrick was on. Did you like the camera work when Kendrick started performing was incredible. And if you haven't seen this, I want you to go watch it. And I know you will watch it, and you'll give me your feedback because I know how much of a cinema means to you. Tyler the Creator performed on MTV Music Awards something, but he performed Magic Wand, and the camera work for that one performance was incredible, and it reminded me of what the Kendrick Lamar camera work was like. So when you get time, just go Google Tyler the Creator Magic Wand live performance. The camera work, the songs decent at best, but the performance and the camera work was incredible. But so you were talking about running track, and this is gonna go full circle back toward the beginning of the show. You said, Jamar kind of shouted you out that he appreciated what you did for him when you started, and then you running track. I'm gonna mention somebody's name that kind of doesn't. I feel like I know him. Uh, did Johnny Nesbitt help you when you were
Oh my
growing up?
God, man.
Is that a guy that doesn't
Johnny,
get the love he deserves in Greer?
he, I mean, no, there should be, and this is real talk. There should be a statue of Coach Nesbitt. Like the impact on all the success that Greer has had, even going back to the '94 football team. He was on that staff.
Yep.
Like he even the blood that he put on it. Like Sinclair is his uncle. No, I said it wrong. He's Sinclair's uncle. He's Legeric's uncle. He's Jay Nesbitt uncle. Like Quez Nesbitt. So it's like just for what he done, man. And like oh man, I gotta tell the story. So we run it track, and we had, I think we might have been in Charlotte. I can't remember. And so we put together our 4x1 team, and he wanted me to do the third leg. And I never wondered why he wanted me to do the third leg. So I asked him, why you want me to do the third leg? He's like, "Cause you attack the curb." And like that is how he would say it. And like I can remember vividly. Like, so the race start and I get it. And so I get the baton, and I can just and usually when you're running or anything, playing football, anything, you really can't really hear anybody. Like everything is kind of, white noise. And I can hear him. Hit the curb, hit the curb, hit the curb. And I'm running, and I can just hear him saying, hit the curb. Dude, it is so crazy. Johnny Nesbitt, yes.
So you talking about what Snoop does? He does the same thing in Greer. Like my brother played offensive line for Greer, and he went and trained with Johnny on Tuesdays, Thursdays, whatever night he would rent the Victor Gym at the old Victor Baptist Church and would have a
Mhm.
free thing for anybody that wanted to come. And he would train young kids, old kids. My brother was there doing bear crawls across the gym, doing running exercises, track exercises, and he doesn't ask for a dime. He's there to help you. Like he doesn't get the credit he deserves. And I love him to death, man. Like we used to take care of the CPW. So when I would go up there and I'd see him, man, it was like I just love talking to him. My
Yeah.
brother in high school trained with Johnny. My brother didn't enjoy playing football. Like it wasn't his thing. He played football because he was 6'5", 315. He had the size, but when he pulled and would pancake a linebacker, he would want to help him up. Like he just didn't have the heart for football. But at the Shrine Bowl Combine, he ran a 4.97 at 315, and that's all because of Johnny. Like
Yeah.
Coach Young said, when Adam ran, I couldn't hear his feet hit the floor. He's like the biggest man I've ever seen that I couldn't hear his feet hit the floor. And I'm like, well, I can tell you who creates people like that. His name's Johnny Nesbitt. That's who creates people like that.
Yeah. Johnny took me from I remember my freshman year, I ran a 4.65. By my senior year, I ran a 4.4. And all of that is because of Johnny. I was never a burner. 4.4. I mean, there's guys in the NFL don't run 4.4 now that are at
No,
skill position.
that's a burner.
So
4.4, you get that label if you can run a 4.4.
yeah, and it's like that. It's that dude. It's like his training regiments, like all of the advice I ever got from him. Like he was just generally a good dude that cared. Like there ain't a lot of people who care, and he don't ask for anything in return. He wasn't that guy. Was like, yo, I want to attach myself to this guy because if he makes it to the league, I'm gonna get a kickback. He was never that guy. He was just strictly he care. He really cares about the G. You got to be from here to understand. Like he cares about that G, man. You know what I'm saying? But the last thing that I wanted to speak to you about, man, and I'm gonna let you go is, and we spoke a little bit about this before we started, and like I just felt like, and you had a great answer to this. I felt like the commercials wasn't what it used to be years ago when it comes to the Super Bowl, and the commercial that stood out to me the most, but that's only because I just recently got engulfed in the show and I watched all 7 seasons in like 2 months of The Sopranos. They had I think it was a Silverado commercial where they had oh my god, I know her name and now I'm forgetting, but they had a Soprano daughter in the Soprano son. She was driving a car, and then she met her brother at a diner, and that was the diner that they were seeing at last. If you watch the show, but I just thought it was clever. Like I was like, oh shit, like that's dope. And then she did the whole because the intro of the show is him driving through the New Jersey Turnpike, like all this type of shit. Like and they got the same music in the background, but it was always Tony. It was only Tony Soprano. And for them to use the daughter, Mello, that's her name, Mello, to use Mello as Tony, and then she met her brother, and I just thought it was dope. I liked it only because I'm big into the Sopranos show. But was there any commercial that stood out to you that you was like, yo, that was clever? I like how they did that.
No, you're not the only one. That's one of the ones that I hear on a lot of the sports shows that I listen to. Soprano commercial, and I hear a lot about the Larry David commercial. Now, I had some people over that we watched Super Bowl with, so we were talking and chopping it up some during commercials. When usually me and Aaron watch it by herself, she's more focused on the commercials than the football, so
Mm-hmm.
we really pay attention when it's just me and her. But I hear a lot about the Larry David commercial, but the Coinbase commercial had everybody just completely bumfuzzled. Like the Coinbase commercial was genius, and like I could already hear now, like my grandpa, if he was still alive when the Coinbase commercial started, I could hear him now. Like, who turned it? What happened to the TV? Is somebody sitting on the remote? Like, what happened to the TV? Like them flashing a QR code and then playing off of it in the corner was brilliant. So that was good. And the NFL always makes good commercials. Like the NFL never misses on their commercials. Right before halftime, when they had the people come out of the TV,
Yeah.
that they don't miss, man. Their commercials where they involve old players are always really, really good. The one they did the couple years ago when they were at the awards banquet and the football got knocked off of the cake,
Yeah. That was
and
dope. I love that.
somebody yelled fumble, and they all started trying to get the football. Like the NFL's commercials are really good, but the point I made to you about the commercials maybe not being as good is I just don't know if people put that much money into commercials anymore because they know people are on their phone during when the game's not on, they're on their phone and they're looking at their phone instead of at the commercials. So it's a weird time we live in, but those were some that I remember and I enjoyed, and I need to do a little more research now that I can watch them and pay attention to them. I'm definitely going to go watch the Sopranos commercial so I can get an opinion on it.
Yeah, it was dope. I also liked the Toyota commercial that had all the Joneses in it. Had Tommy Lee Jones, Leslie
I did
Jones,
see
and
that.
then
That was good.
Nick Jonas just pop up. Your last name ain't Jones, man. Like it was just, I just thought it was funny because like Nick Jonas just pops up and he had this damn weird smile on his face. It was just like he wanted to be part of the Joneses, but I thought that was cool as well.
Yeah,
Oh
that was
man.
good.
Yeah, but man, CJ, man, look, I definitely appreciate you, taking the time out to join my podcast, man. It was fun. I always have fun talking to you. I love listening to the podcast when you, Jamar, and Chris is on there. Sometimes you control the ship, sometimes you're a part of the ship. So I think that's also dope that you and Jamar do that sometimes. But yeah, I flip roles. That's also dope as well. But last thing, man, for you to shout out your socials where everybody can find you, all the things that you are involved in. I would appreciate it.
Um, if anybody is watching, you can find me just taps_takes is the easiest place to find me. But also, when you're looking up, if anybody's on here watching that normally pays attention to anything I'm a part of, it's S. Foster. That's who you go follow. Go follow S. Foster, 28 minutes or less, viewers anonymous. If you're looking for something to watch, go check out Top 10 Movies Viewers Anonymous from last year. I listened to it on Spotify, had a ton of stuff that I wrote down that me and Aaron slowly working through. I know a little more about it now. The spoilers weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. So you didn't ruin everything, but and then some stuff I knew Aaron had watched, so I had to grill Aaron about it because she went to see Halloween Kills and it made both of y'all's lists. So I was like, Sean said that it was great except for the chant. Like, tell me about the chant at the end. He said he could live without the damn chant. And
Yeah,
she was like,
I hated
"Oh
it.
yeah." She said, "Oh yeah," and she told me all about it. So everybody go check out them. They're doing great work, and I'm glad you had me on, man. I enjoyed it.
No, man, listen, I appreciate you for even taking the chance, not the chance, but the time out to listen, man. Like, cause not even really that I put a lot of effort into it. It's just one of the loves that I have is like obviously I love sports, but at the same time, like movies, man. I'm a loner, dude. I spend a lot of time alone, like even as a kid and up into an adult. And like the one thing that I would do is watch movies. And I've been watching movies for so long, and I always wanted to just have a platform to just be able to talk about how much I love movies, man. So it's fun, man. So shout out to Scoots Bronson for doing that venture with me, man. Y'all go check out the Viewers Anonymous, on all major platforms. Shout out to JD, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to his brother Chris. Y'all doing great work over there at the YouTube. Shout out to the Stick to Drip Network, all the work that y'all doing over there. Shout out to Carm. She does a great job as well. But CJ, it's been an honor. Definitely won't be the last time I will be speaking to you on the pod. I don't know if it's going to be this one. I don't know if it's going to be Viewers Anonymous. I don't know if I'm going to jump back on YouTube. Whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? You do really, really good work, man. So I really appreciate you jumping on with me.
I'm already looking forward to the next time you have me on here, man. I'm already looking forward to it.
Yes, sir, man. That definitely can happen. So everybody, I appreciate y'all for listening. Y'all can follow me at s.foster8 on Instagram and Twitter at 28 minutes or less pod on IG. This was episode 74 of the 28 Minutes or Less podcast, and I'm out.